Factor Podcast. So Archers, like you said, on attack especially, just keeping Manny and Holman was a no-brainer.
Yeah, the one thing that did surprise me about the Archers is Ryan Ambler. How do you feel about Ryan Ambler?
How do I feel about them keeping him?
Yeah, because I was kind of in the mindset that they would keep Danny Ipe as a transition midi, fastest guy in the PLL. Ryan Ambler's a good player, and I get that he played with Tom Schreiber at Princeton, but I thought Danny Ipe was a better choice there. Just my opinion.
How many guys do you think that went unprotected that they'll actually lose? Do you think they lose Ipe for sure?
That's a great question because you got to think about who they're going to pick up, and then on top of that, there's free agency outside the league, right?
Yep.
So maybe they know something we don't, and they know that guys are going to be coming from different leagues or whatever might have you. But I think I might get picked up, and I don't know if I want to risk that. But that's a good point. That's a good point.
And I saw a couple of scenarios where, like in this case here, they only keep 2 attack, but they have Pat Spencer was exempted. So assuming Pat Spencer joins.
I was thinking about that too. Yep.
And I mean, that's a perfect compliment right there. Manny, Holman, you've got a bunch of guys that are, Manny and Holman are primarily goal scorers, but they're capable of being 50-50 guys. And Spencer's, he's a 40-60 guy in terms of percentages.
Exactly. And Ambler's more of an off-ball player, so he'd probably complement, a Schreiber or a Pat Spencer really well in that aspect. He kind of dodges, like you said, that 2-slide dodge. He kind of works off of that a little bit and some crease work.
I wasn't surprised just because numbers dictate who they get rid of, but McIntosh and Sankey had to be painful for them to leave unprotected.
Yeah, McIntosh
as well.
is tough too. And same with Sankey. I mean, Sankey didn't play great with the Woods, which is why the Woods picked up Jules Henningberg in the first place, which turned out really well for them. But yeah, I mean, you just look down the line on all these rosters of the unprotected players, and it's an all-star list at the end of the day.
And like right on defense, they leave Jackson Place unprotected.
Yeah.
And I saw something on Inside Lacrosse where people were complaining that they kept Corley. Is it Corley or Sorley? I always screw it up.
Curtis Corley.
Corley. Yeah. And but I thought that was okay. I didn't think that was odd. Scotty Ratliff, McMahon. So they have solid returners on the defensive end.
Yeah, like I said, not a whole lot of surprises with this. I would say that who was it that we just talked about? Corley. He was good at Maryland, but on ball, I don't know. He wasn't like one of the premier guys in my opinion, because I look at a lot of defensive stuff, and he's a world-class defender, but I don't know if he's a protected PLO player, roster player, is what I mean.
Yep. Yeah, and who else did they give up? Jackson Place. But then you look at the names of the guys that they, on defense anyway, that they left unprotected, and I could see why they protected the 3 they did.
Yeah, Jackson Place got hurt at the end of that last year, but I think before that he was starting. But I don't know, injuries kind of play a part of that as well. But
and then the exempted list, what? Because I'm PLL stupid to a degree still. Why are those players exempted? Is it because they were drafted and didn't play last year?
Some of it, some of it's like that. Some of it is also military. So you have guys like Matt Rees, Johnny Surdick, who are in the military, and they're exempt for that reason. And then other guys like Austin Stotts was a rookie holdout situation for him, from what I read, because they listed it somewhere on some website. I read it, and I was curious as to why people were exempt in the first place. And most of it was military and just rookie holdouts.
And Stotts is a ridiculous offensive pickup for them.
That dude is insane. I really hope he plays. Same thing with Curtis Dixon. I know they both didn't play last year, but they would be so much fun to watch in this league at a fast pace.
And I coached at Broome, so I had the displeasure of having to coach against a bunch of the Onondaga kids. Cody Jameson, played at Syracuse for 2 years. He roached us a couple of times. Trying to think, there was a long pole that ended up playing for Syracuse, but we would lose legitimately 27-3, and I mean they were capable of beating teams 50-1 if they had wanted to.
I know it's really insane what that school has going on there, but. Anyway, to get back to it, do you want to move on or?
Yep. Yeah, we can go to who was. I'll just rip through my list and then you can interject. But I had the Atlas up next.
Okay.
And this one was weird too. And I'm wondering if this plays into. Do the Atlas have the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick?
I want to say they have the number 2 pick behind the Chrome. The Chrome have the number 1 pick
because they on attack keep 2 kind of goal scoring
Yeah,
attacks.
that's exactly what I saw too. Who's the initiator in that offense?
Yep. So that's where I saw even an Inside Lacrosse and a couple other guys were saying, does this mean that they're feeling pretty confident they're going to end up with an AMET? But it's not even just an AMET, because you figure, let's say somebody does something crazy and they take TD number one, or somebody takes AMET number one. You have Sowers number two. You're at least somebody like the Atlas could take a Sowers. So they have two guys that could anchor an offense that they could take with their first pick and fill that hole.
I think that's a great point to make too, because I mean, between Ament and Sowers, you really can't go wrong. I mean, Ament had more. I mean, he had the most assists in a season ever. I think that speaks a little bit more for him. But between Sowers and Ament, I mean, they're so young in their career too. They haven't played any professional lacrosse. They haven't meshed with these guys before. But either Ament or Sowers feeding Eric Law and Ryan Brown or Connor Buszczyk, that is scary. That's very scary.
And who would you pick if you had the number one pick in the draft? Who would you take? Because I'm not taking TD. I'm taking one of those two. I don't think I'd take TD
either, even though he's so good, and not just at faceoffs. He's so versatile off the ground. But if I have the number one pick, I want to say I have to go with Ament. Even though Sowers might be a better goal scorer, I think Ament's more designed to be a feeder in that offense, and that he can score more goals if he wanted to. So I would go with Ament in that sense. Yeah.
I'm a Sowers guy all the way.
Sowers,
but I'm a big homer.
Yeah. I love both of them. So.
And then I like it when I gain players' fathers as subscribers. So you put up like a video. I put up a Sowers video a little while ago, and sure as crap, there's Sowers' dad.
Same thing happens to me too. Same thing, or like a Instagram follower or something like that from a parent. From some kid's video that it's pretty cool that way.
I haven't harnessed the Instagram well yet.
See, that's what I suck at Twitter, but I'm decent at Instagram, and I have like 600 or 700 followers on there. I'm gonna work on that this season.
I'm just gonna start buying them. And I don't mean like the shady buying. I mean the legitimate, legitimate advertising to purchase the.
No, I get it.
Followers. Right. And we haven't even talked about, but they protected, obviously. Are we still on the Atlas Baptiste? That went without saying.
I get that. Yeah, that's totally 100%. I'm trying to let me see at the unprotected list, see if there's anybody that surprises me. I would say one guy, Tinny. Yeah, Tinny is tough, and then Cade Van Raphorst is another guy.
Because they're going to lose them both. I would assume. I would assume Tinny's getting snatched up, and I would assume that Van Rapp is going to see Van Rapp. I don't think that's as. Like, I would keep Durkin and Hartzell over Van Raphorst. So I don't like, I agree. As it played out, I could see where they had to make a decision, but obviously they're hoping to hell that they're able to keep Van Raphorst.
Yeah. Another guy, Ryan Conrad, he really didn't play great with them last year. I mean, he came in halfway through the season after playing an entire season of college lacrosse, which makes a lot of sense, but I don't know. Midfield wise, I think he would have been a really good 2A midi and a really good initiator too for them.
He had one of the best seasons of a midfielder ever, in my opinion.
And he won a championship, and he was clutch. He came up big in big moments.
And they don't win that championship without him. They don't get to it at least without him. Maybe in that game, you could say it could have gone either way, but he was too key. So losing Tinny though, that's going to be painful for him. And then
Tinny, definitely.
But hey, you got Baptiste though, so you lose Tinny and his production, but you're going to win faceoffs at least.
There you go, exactly.
As we're talking about Baptiste, what did you think about the All-Star game and how they mixed it up at the dot? And the main thing that surprised me was it didn't matter how they put the ball on the ground in front of those guys. He came away with it regardless. Whether they were dropping it hockey style, he came away with it. It just didn't matter.
The only guy that I can remember that really challenged Baptiste on the field in faceoffs was TD Erlin. 2 years, not this past season, but the one before that when they played in the playoffs. That's the only time I've seen Baptiste challenged by another faceoff guy. But I mean, that dude plays box. He can do it all. He's crazy athletic. He gets low to the ground, and he never runs out of gas.
I don't know who his coach is in the NLL, but I heard him talking about he's like a goal a game, win you a boatload of faceoff guys in the NLL for the rest of his career. He'll have value.
First season he won a lot of faceoffs. He got a lot of ground balls. Didn't score a whole lot. But this season, he's already got a few more goals than I think he did last year, and it's like a few weeks in. So
it's that speed, boy.
Yeah, exactly. Tomahawk shades.
That was one of my favorite moments all year, was where he was being interviewed, scored that goal, and then was like, "It's that speed, boy," or whatever it was that he said. That was
all time quote, all time.
So moving on to the chaos.
Yep.
And this one, I think they have one of the most balanced rosters around, partly because
in general,
they at first I'm looking at their attack and I'm like, oh, they keep Fields and Byrne. Is that the only two guys that they kept?
Mm-hmm. That is the only it's the only attack that they kept there.
But then I see they got Austin Stotts.
That's the thing, is like, we just don't know what he's gonna do. And I hope he plays, obviously, because like you said, he's disgusting. But I guess we'll see.
What's keeping him from playing? I just don't understand.
It's a great question. I mean, like you said, the lacrosse world isn't covered as much in media as other sports. So stories like that don't formulate. They don't come out as much. But yeah, like I said, I really don't know. I just know he's got rookie holdout is what the diagnosis is there.
All right. Now I'm going to have to get to the bottom of that one.
Yeah, there you go.
Midfield, there was no surprises at all. Class, 13 points for Caro, 14 and 10. Mm-hmm. Jones, 7 and 10. Jones was a little bit inconsistent, I thought, but you got to keep him.
He's too much of an attention dragger as an initiator, and even as a feeder. He was so good at Duke and in professional. That's one asset of his game that he's really improved. And one guy I was kind of surprised about was possibly Miles Thompson.
Yep.
Because I think he works so well with Byrne and Connor Fields. Like, why would you mess with it? But at the same time, I see he's not as versatile as other players in there. So I understand it, but I may have done differently.
And I forget what they had said each team loses, but it's not like the chance that they retain. Like, as I'm sitting here and I'm like, holy crap, they didn't protect this entire list of guys. I mean, the chance that they lose even one of them, is probably that's about all they're going to lose.
The mindset that we have is like, oh my God, all these guys aren't on the chaos anymore.
They're gone.
They're gone. They're in oblivion, different teams. When in reality, like you said, I think the max that you can take from one team is 4. So the max that they're going to lose off that team is 4 of these guys. So overall, the rosters aren't going to look that different, but there's going to be those 1 to 2 guys that they kind of pick out of there that make a difference.
And Johnny Surdick is exempted. And what have you heard anything about the prospect of him playing?
No, I just know that he's military, and so is Matt Rees. And Matt Rees was a monster for them last year too at LSM.
And then we got Brody Merrill. They got the geezer.
Yep.
I don't remember what they said the prospect of him being picked up was, but obviously they're going to want to try to keep him despite being old.
Good experience. I mean, he's coach at Hill Academy. He's been playing this game for so long. Be a great guy to pick up and just have as a leader in a new organization, I think.
It's funny. I think it's funny that Blaze Reardon just put up a hat trick just this past weekend.
Isn't that the weirdest thing? Is that he's so good at goal, and then he's just nasty with a short stick too.
I wasn't a big fan of him as a keeper at Albany, but obviously everybody was kind of a fan of him as a keeper in the PLL. But that's kind of a thing for Albany. They've always had guys that could go coast to coast and score goals. Not that Blaze,
just different players, different types of players.
Because Queener was an old Albany goalie, and I always tell the story when he was a little kid. I played my freshman year at Cuca up in Penn Yan, so we used to go and play in the box in town. Yep. And goalies wouldn't show up. So little Queener would hop in the cage, and he must have been all of like 10 years old, 12 years old. And Coach Queener's rule was just, he can play with you guys. You just can't light it up on him. You got to one-on-ones. You had to take one-on-ones with 12-year-old Queener. And we're playing. I mean, Penn Yan's a lacrosse, kind of a lacrosse hotbed to a degree. Sure. And so, I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 all-American level college players at any given night rolling in here. And this kid is hopping in cage and hanging with all of us. So that was pretty funny.
Was he quick then too? I mean, he's the fastest goalie I've ever seen.
I don't remember. It was all a blur. It was.
That's fair.
I was 17. I wasn't even 18 yet. I was 17 at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm 42 now. So I mean, I'm an old ass man. But that made sense. And then they kept Kelly. I see. Pretty much. Yeah. There was only one team that didn't keep a face-off guy, right? Who was that?
Yeah, that's without looking.
Redwoods.
It was it the Woods?
Yep.
Yeah, they didn't keep. I thought they'd keep Greg Gorillion, and they didn't.
Nope.
They didn't keep him.
The gorilla is gone.
He is.
But
what pick did the Water Dogs get in the draft?
No idea.
That's a good question. I wouldn't. They might get the first pick.
And what's Rob Pinnell going to do?
That is all right. That is the big question that everyone is wondering. I saw on Twitter like maybe a month or 6 weeks ago that there's some buzz about him telling like a family friend that he was leaving or something, but there's nothing
I was in on
set
that.
in stone. There's nothing set in stone and all that.
Nope.
Per
and
se.
I made a big announcement. I did a whole video about it that did pretty well.
I saw that. Yeah.
And it was just me going out on a limb. I've done that before too. I went out on a limb at the end of the year. Someone had said that a bunch of kids on the Syracuse team had been getting calls from their buddies on Maryland that Tillman was leaving. And that whole rumor was started because he had bought a house in Annapolis, I think is what it was. Or something. But who the hell wouldn't want a house in Annapolis? While you're living down there. So I'm a hot take guy apparently also, and sometimes I'm wrong. So I'm hoping that Pinnell joins the PLL.
Yet. I'm not there yet, but I'm working towards it for the time being. But do you want to move on to the Chrome?
Chrome. Yep. Let's do the Chrome.
All right. So there, Justin Gutterding, Matt Danowski. How do you feel about Matt Danowski getting picked up here for the protected list?
I mean, I'm looking at Crotty too. They're just a couple of geezers.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they kept them together, but they produced.
And
so even though
together.
They're old,
they work together at Duke too. They're both coaches there. But I'm gonna look down the list here and see if there's anybody that surprised me that they didn't keep. I can see
Dennis. I can see keeping those two at midfield, and then you got McIntosh and Haas. I mean, they got a vets. It's a very veteran, a nice
White.
Deep core.
Yep. Plus Connor Farrell.
D, they were a little weak. Not weak, I wouldn't say, because at first I was like, they just kept Manley and White, and that was it. But Brandon Mullins was he's unprotected, right?
Yeah, Mullins is unprotected.
I wondered if he because he at one point he was one of the best defenders in pro lacrosse for at least a year or two.
And it looks like they just went with their top midfielder, or not midfielder rather, but defense and Mike Manley. Yep. But that defense was kind of discombobulated last year to begin with, so maybe they just want a clean slate, or they don't think that one of their guys is going to get picked because they didn't have a good defense.
Yep. And Wolf and Gutterding on attack.
Those are automatic. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Jordan McIntosh shot 44% from the midfield last year.
That's crazy.
Outstanding. That's outstanding. Will Haas, two-way midi. Joel White, super versatile, short stick, long stick, doesn't matter for him. And then Connor Farrell, their one face-off guy with a bright future. So.
And the goalie, they were damned. There was really not much they could do. They've got two aged goalies and then an inconsistent third keeper.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, you got to wait. I don't want to say this because John Galloway is my favorite goalie of all time.
Yeah.
But it feels kind of like they had to waste protection on an aged goalie that didn't have that great of a season last year.
He didn't. He really didn't. And maybe that's some of it's adapting to a new style of play. But, looks like the other goalies kind of adapted a little bit faster than he did. So looks like they're giving him a second chance.
And he was never a huge ball stopper. He was always more of a game manager, defense manager.
He's crazy athletic, super vocal. I like watching him play. He's an interesting goalie to watch. You can see a whole lot of body language too.
He's my guy that if Desko ever, when Desko decides to step down, because I don't see Syracuse ever getting rid of a coach that gets them consistently to the tournament like that.
Yeah.
Galloway is my pick. I would love to see Galloway come in and take over the Orange.
He's with Jacksonville right now.
Yep.
He's the head coach down there. But I'd imagine that he would love to take that Syracuse coaching job, though. 100%.
I've heard from a couple of people that it was nearly a done deal.
Ooh.
But being from this area and then knowing a bunch of people around here that are, semi-connected, right. I've heard that that Galloway was pretty much the coach in waiting. I've heard that Gary Gate was just sitting there coaching the women's team, waiting for Desko to step down so he could take over. So I've heard that they've promised this gig to all sorts of people.
You've probably heard a lot of things, especially being from that area.
Yep. So I don't know what to believe anymore.
Overall with the Chrome, I didn't think there was a whole lot of surprises there.
No, and they're loaded.
Yeah.
They're not loaded. We were talking who was the Chaos we were saying was loaded.
Chaos loaded. And then they have some young guys in here like Chris Sabia for defense, but they're off. They kept all their best offensive players really.
Yep.
Like they didn't miss anything there, and their defense wasn't that great to begin with. They're probably not going to get picked up, so they really don't lose anything.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and nobody wants half those guys anyway because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
They sucked.
Yeah, exactly.
See, and because there was no regional teams, I had to pick a team to try to follow and like.
Yeah.
So of course I picked the Chrome. mostly because of Galloway.
Yeah.
Mullins was on the roster. So I was like, all right, I'll take these guys. And that didn't work out for me very well at all.
I picked the Chaos just because I like the box style of play, the Thompson. It felt more like an Albany kind of team.
Yep.
And then you had Miles Jones and Deemer class in there. So that was my team overall. But I just like the whole league. So I followed everybody.
I still think it's a huge mistake not having a teams tied to regions.
Yeah. And I get it. And then it's like they tried to tie teams with college players for the most part, right?
Yep.
The Redwoods, aka Notre Dame / some Brown players mixed in there. I think that's how they approach the marketing side of it. The cities, the only thing I could think of as to why they wouldn't want to do a city-based thing is because, one, there's the MLO, and then two, the renting of venues on a week-to-week basis might increase their expense costs. I don't know how much that would actually increase their expenses, but I'd imagine it'd be a lot easier just to rent out one stadium per week as opposed to, a whole slew of them on a week-to-week basis.
Yep. I'm an old man. Like I've noticed the younger generation seems to not care.
Yeah.
And they're in, like it's kind of what we'd call, my generation calls the NBA generation, where when I was a kid, every sport I loved, it was New York. I was a Giants fan. I was a Yankees fan. I was a Syracuse fan. But in basketball, because the Knicks sucked, I was a Bulls fan because I was the Michael Jordan era. So that's who everybody.
I kind of made that comparison myself, where I'm a big Steeler fan, from Pittsburgh and everything, die hard.
Yep.
If Big Ben goes somewhere, it's not like I immediately become a Chargers fan.
Right.
But then in the NBA, like you're talking about, if say LeBron James wanted to make his own sports league, right? He up and leaves, he grabs Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and the top players in the NBA. Which sports league are you gonna watch? You're gonna watch LeBron's league.
The one without LeBron.
You are?
I hate LeBron. I don't hate LeBron James.
Okay. I was just making because he's like, the superstar of the NBA, debatable, whatever, but he's essentially one of the few faces of it at the top. And personally, if you want to watch the best basketball in the world, you're probably going to watch the other league with the better players.
Yep.
Overall.
I agree. That's why I've never been a big NBA fan, though, mostly because once the Bulls were done and Jordan was done, it's like, okay, I was only a Bulls fan I was a homer. It was the only sport I was a homer in. And so now I'm just Cuse basketball, and it's been a terrible, terrible season for Cuse. Outside of that UVA win this weekend, that was pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't keep up to date too much with college basketball. I did last year with Zion and all those guys. I mean, how couldn't you?
Yep.
But yeah, I see the argument anyway for both sides of the PLO marketing and how they're going about it. But I think somewhere Raybo alluded to having eventually city-based teams. Like this is kind of the initial, I guess you would call it like setting, and then they're going to get into that, but they just haven't yet.
Maybe it's just part of the roadmap. Get out there, get seen, gain the following, and then start to settle after, because they don't even have to play all the games there. You could it could have been just you just do, each team would host one event in their city, and it could still just be a one bang.
That's
might only true, get one event, and everyone else could still go around. But at least then they would have gained fans in those regions automatically.
You're basically rooting for this team. This is their city. They defend it. They could have done all that shit if they really wanted to.
And that's why the NLL works, because the NLL, they're attracting non-lacrosse fans, just season ticket holders for the hockey teams that are bored and want to keep sitting in their seats through the.
And those houses are packed, man. Those games are crazy. You see the fans there; they're into it.
All right, back to task.
We
have the Redwoods.
Yep, Redwoods. Which
attack was easy peasy. Kavanaugh, Garnsey, and Hennenberg. I can't believe who did Hennenberg play for at the beginning of last year?
He was Who was he with? Wherever he was, he wasn't fitting in though. I'm trying to remember where he got. He was with the Whip Snakes, isn't that right?
Gotcha. Yeah,
Whip
could
Snakes,
be.
Yeah.
I declared shenanigans. I felt like that was a little bit of league fixing, getting rid of one of the best young attackmen in the league, and just why the hell would you get rid of that kid early season like that?
But like I said, they weren't really utilizing him that much, and they had Sankey at the time, and Sankey wasn't doing too much. I think he was shooting under 15% whenever I was looking at the numbers, and as soon as they put Hennenberg in, everything changed for them. It was like a total 180 on offense.
And then I see they have Brendan Gleason exempted, Notre Dame kid.
And Matt Landis.
Where was he? I do have him down there. Yep.
Yeah, Matt Landis.
Yep.
See, I didn't know that whenever I projected my team. I had him, and then Epple and Glaze, they're all protected. But having Matt Landis exempt, I mean, that's a freebie right there.
But that's a dirty defense right there. I mean, that's a bunch of guys that they'll probably get back. Hugh Krantz, do you think they lose him?
I think they do lose. Do they lose him? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to pick him up. I know he's a really good player, but from watching him last year, I don't know if he's like a top defender in the league kind of guy. And then there's so many other great defenders in here. They might pick him, they might not. But even if they don't, they already have such a solid defense, so they can afford to lose him, I think.
And this is the one we haven't talked about yet, right? Kyle Harrison.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that before we started recording?
Yeah, before we started, we talked about him a little bit. And like I said, 3 goals in 10 games, no assists, and 10.5% shooting.
Yeah, I don't get it. And I heard somebody make the argument that Salcido played shaky down the stretch, that he played tough, but I mean the dude's young and he's ripped, and more importantly, he's a friend of my channel, so I'm all about him.
Yeah, I see. I knew you'd be a big Salcido guy too, you know. And I actually started playing lacrosse in Fort Myers, Florida. He's a Florida kid, so I love him to death. You know, I love his game. I love everything that he's about. But yeah, like I said, I can't believe that they would give him up because he's going to get picked up.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he had 19 points last year, 10 goals, 9 assists. He shot 23%, but that's not, you know, that's twice as much as Kyle Harrison. At the end of the day, if we're talking about protected players, I mean, for value, I think Salcido is way more athletic. He can do way more. The only thing I can see is if they wanted Kyle Harrison to be more of an outside shooter type of guy, they wanted the attackman to initiate more. They wanted him as a step-down shooter, and they felt like he might have been better than Salcido. But even that, I mean, that's such a hot – you can't make that argument.
So, yeah, Salcido had a cannon. I saw him score the game winner with no time on the clock at Cornell, 3 or 4 years ago when Hughes played Cornell up there. That's a beautiful place to see a game is Cornell. Yeah. You watch Syracuse play up there with the sun going down on the hill behind the stadium. Now there's like a big parking garage fucking up the view in there. But yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue. And then Berg. I would have taken Berg over Harrison, I think.
Wes Berg, yeah, another guy.
But I get Perkovic, Adams, Walters. You know, I mean, I get those guys. But that Harrison one I was wondering about.
And I get that they keep Perkovic. That makes obvious sense. Outside shooter, he stretches the defense, opens up the attack. Yeah, really the only surprise here. What do you think about Joe Walters being on that list too as another older member of that team?
Is it maybe something they're trying to do here with, I mean, because Walters, I presume, you know, still rips rope. And
really, yeah, he still rips. But like I said, just getting older.
Yep. I would take him, though. Over at least because if you were to put
Harrison,
if you were to put him as a spot shooter and say, hey, this is what you're going to do with these attackmen that we have and all the attention they're going to draw, all 3 of those attackmen are going to draw attention and can create. I could see filling it up outside with shooters, but
that's kind of the way I saw it too. And Salcido did have the keys to the offense a good bit last year, so maybe they want to move away from that. I mean, they have the reasons. I mean, Kyle Harrison also like the intangibles, like him being the GOAT, you know, the attention that he brings to your team, to your organization. That also means something. The leadership qualities across the board, that also means something. But just from a play standpoint, I mean, Salcido is definitely the better player.
Or is it rigged and Harrison is just one of the – he gets more of a say than other people, so it's like, nah, I'm getting
he's on the inside. He already made his pick. He's picking himself. He's over Salcido there for sure.
A backroom deal with Rabel over some expensive scotch.
Yeah, there it is.
And a cigar.
For sure.
Defensively, they're loaded, though. We said earlier, I'm jumping. Jumping. Yeah, that's not bad, though. But that's the head scratcher of all of them.
I mean, that's
the Harrison move.
Yeah, and no disrespect to the guy. I mean, he's the GOAT. I used to watch his jump shot videos in like 0.25 motion to try and copy that in high school and everything. But now, you know.
I hated his guts.
You hated him?
Oh, I hated him
as a Cuse fan.
With a fucking passion. I hated his guts.
That makes sense. See, whenever he was playing, I was just growing up. So my guy was Rabel when I was growing up.
Yep, I hated him too.
That's fantastic.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah. What the hell is he doing? What an asshole.
I mean, and now I don't give a shit. Now I'm just big fans of all of these guys. But as a kid, I was especially before I got into the podcasting thing, I was a fairly bitter fan. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was like, fuck UVA, Duke, Notre Dame, Hopkins could, you know, I would bathe in the blood of a Hopkins loss, you know, that kind of thing. And now I've been forced not even forced, but now I'm a fan of everybody. I just love watching all, especially the ACC Big Ten games.
Oh my God. When you see a Duke or Syracuse or like, I mean, that's just like, all right, I'm not doing anything Saturday. I'm watching lacrosse all day. I'm sitting on my couch. That's all I'm doing.
Hopkins, UVA last year, like the big UVA ones, right, Hopkins, Penn State, Maryland, Penn State. Yep. Like, I mean, all those matchups are.
And now there's so much more parity in lacrosse that there's so many more good games in general. It's not like you have to wait, 6 to 8 weeks to get a good game. It's like every single weekend there's teams playing and competing at a high level.
And these were the Redwoods, the only guys that didn't keep a face-off guy, but they'll correct it.
Yeah, I think they can manage.
And there's a bunch of unprotected face-off men that who knows, like if as teams start to fill out their roster, how many of these unprotected players end up getting cut. I don't know how the whole.
We haven't even seen the whole like pre-agency that whole thing comes into play. Like who even knows how that affects everything, what they know and what we don't know.
How many MLL guys will be jumping ship and
that's
not
really the question. I mean, it's not looking hot over there. So
it's not. We can talk. Maybe
guys are definitely looking across the pond. They're like kind of want to go over there.
Well, the grass is greener.
Yeah, way greener.
I mean, at least it looks more fun. Even if it's not actually greener, it looks like you're missing out on something if you don't go.
Exactly.
The Whips were by far the thinnest at attack in terms of protected players, but they got Rambo, so that he's not thin at all. The little meatball.
No. And actually, on my prediction, I predicted this team down to a key. Every single player on here I have on my list as their unprotected players.
Even Drenner?
Yeah, Drenner. I almost put Drenner on there. If you watch my video, I kind of went back and forth with him. But I get why they left him off because he's such a good player, but as an initiator, he's good, but they already have initiators. And he shot from that right wing. He was kind of like that guy on the post, but I don't know. I just don't think he's versatile enough for them. And there's so many other players. Like, they want to protect. You can't not protect Michael Earhart. You can't – I mean, their defense is what they really protected here, right? 4 defensive guys and then their goalie. So that's 5 out of the 11 right there is defense. And then you throw in Ty Warner, that's 7. And then John Haas is a two-way midi, that's 8. So in reality, they have 8 guys, and then Jake Bernhardt, 9, who can play defense. And then they have Matt Rambo and Mike Janachuk, 2 best offensive players.
And like we keep saying, it looks really bad that they only had 1 protected attack, but Brad Smith was exempted. And they had, 5, 6 unprotected attackmen. Maybe one of them gets taken and the rest of them continue to fill out the roster.
And the thing is that they're all Maryland guys. They all played in the same system. And I kind of feel like they can plug in guys here and there and they'll work just fine. They might not be as good as the best guy that can work off ball or the best guy that can, dodge off a 2-slide. But they will be good enough to complement Matt Rambo and Mike Janachuk. And then the other 2A middies that they have. So, like, guys like Ben Reeves, Joe Locascio, Connor Kelly, Drenner, Jay Carlson. I mean, you go down the line, people can only take 4 people from their roster.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, they're not in bad hands. They're going to have guys who they can put in their offense that can score goals.
I wasn't getting that when I was first looking at these lists.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, what are these people doing?
But yeah, I just think, and then not to mention Jeremy Sieverts and Drew, like I can literally name 10 guys here who you can put in that offense that will score goals.
Yep.
Undoubtedly. So
and then you got the meatball Matt Rambo anchoring it all.
They said, fuck it, take, 4 of our best offensive players. We have 4 guys who are almost just as good as those guys are going to take.
And then Nardella. I was surprised I was just surprised. I mean, is Nardella that good that he was worth protecting, or do they just need a face-off man?
I think part of it is they needed a face-off man, and I think he was decent last year. Let me see if I can find
54%.
Yeah, he was 54%. Trevor Baptiste was the league high at 63. So Joseph was basically tied at second. I think he had a few goals in there. Yeah, he had 6 goals and 6 assists as a face-off guy.
Nardella?
Yeah,
that'll do it for you. Yeah, that'll neutralize
that's 12 points. 12 points as a face-off guy.
And you're still winning half of them, more than half of the draws. So that explains that then.
Essentially second in the league in face-off percentage, and he definitely had the most points as a face-off guy.